I was hoping to fly to Germany today and come back tomorrow, but the weather today and tomorrow is pretty rotten. Worse tomorrow actually. And it's days like these that I really wish I had my full instrument rating. And many of you have been telling me, John, why don't you get your instrument rating? Well, it's quite difficult to get here in the UK as opposed to other parts of the world. We'll talk about that shortly. But you'll be pleased to know that I am now finally studying for my IR, the Competency Based IR, which is a bit of a shortcut. Not much of a shortcut, but a bit of a shortcut. And we're going to talk about that in this video.
As I'm sure many of you know, I currently have a UK-only restricted instrument rating, and I shall be using it today on a flight down to Shoreham on England's south coast. En route, I'll be doing a procedural ILS approach for practice at Lydd.
So let's first talk about the restricted instrument rating, and then we'll go on to talk about the CBIR, the Competency Based IR. Now, if you live in other parts of the world other than the UK, you might be a bit confused by all of this terminology. You won't have the restricted instrument rating. It's a very quirky UK thing. So let's talk about that first, then we'll come on to the CBIR. Now, because I don't know if you've noticed, but we have some pretty dismal weather here in the UK. Today is a case in point. It's a bit drizzly, low cloud bases, and this is pretty much our world quite a lot of the time, I'm afraid to say. And because of that, and because of our unique climate here in the UK, AOPA UK many years ago campaigned for a special rating that allowed private pilots to make better use and safer use of their licenses. It afforded them privileges to fly in IMC through a low-cost, easy-to-obtain rating.
The Restricted Instrument Rating, or IMC rating, allows you to fly in IMC and conduct approaches down to published approach minima with visibility not below 1,500 metres in all classes of airspace except Class A. It's recommended that restricted instrument rating holders use a higher minima, for example, no lower than 500 feet above ground for precision approaches, but that's not compulsory. The rating can be applied to a PPL or higher licence, although there's a licensing review underway, which may mean that things change on that front. To get the rating, you have to do 15 hours of flight instruction, a multiple choice theoretical knowledge test, and pass a flight skills test. It's valid for 25 months and can be revalidated with a flight test. The rating is only valid in UK airspace, which includes the Channel Islands, the Isle of Man and Northern Ireland.
The IRR is a really useful rating. It's certainly the most useful thing that I've obtained since getting my private pilot's license. And if you're looking for a new challenge, I'd say do it. It really, really does make your flying safer, more accurate, and enables you to fly on days when you maybe might not have done in the past. And it's thanks to AOPA that we have this rating. They campaigned for it, and they continue to campaign for our freedoms to fly and to make general aviation better if they can. And that's why I'm a member of AOPA. And if you believe in their mission, then why don't you join as well? Details on the screen of how you can get a special flying reporter discount, which is very generous.
Golf India Victor, runway 24, Section 24010, not clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, runway 24, Golf India Victor. We have full power, good RPMs, T's and P's are in the green, airspeed's increasing, no warning lights. We have 50 knots, looking for 60.
I'm departing VFR because Redhill is a VFR only airport. I'll switch to IFR once I'm clear of the London Gatwick Class D airspace that's just above me right now. With the cloud bases around the 1200, 1400 foot mark, I'm having to pick my way through.
Tower, Golf India Victor.
Golf India Victor.
If you don't have anything inbound, I'd like to make a right turn to avoid a shower over Godstone, which will put me on the final approach for 24.
Golf India Victor, that's approved.
Golf India Victor. Reason being is we can't, that's about 900 foot height, those hills there. Probably more like a bit more than that, to be honest, and we couldn't be MSA, so can't go IMC through that. Now you can see what our British weather can be like.
Now here's where we see the limitations of the restricted instrument rating, especially around London. Without a full IR, I can't enter the London TMA, which is above me in Class A airspace, and therefore I'm left to negotiate with the nearest lower airspace radar unit for a traffic service, so that I have some level of radar supervision for my climb through the clouds to an altitude that keeps me clear of obstacles and terrain. I don't have to have a traffic service for this. In fact, in UK Class G airspace, I don't even have to talk to anyone when IFR. I know it sounds crazy, doesn't it? That would be my absolute last resort for me, as it increases the risk of a mid-air collision, of course. The problem here is that I'm at such a low level that Southend Lars can barely hear me.
Golf Victor, Bow Beach, request frequency change, Southend radar 130.780.
Golf Victor, score conspicuity, free call Southend bar.
Score conspicuity, Golf Victor. Southend radar, Golf Bravo, Mike India Victor, request traffic service.
Since I didn't hear a reply, I opened the squelch on the radio, which means that weaker signals can get through.
Station calling broken. Was it Golf Bravo Mike India Victor?
A firm, Golf Bravo Mike India Victor, request traffic service.
Golf India Victor, passing office.
Golf Bravo Mike India Victor, PA28 Arrow, Red Hill to Shoreham via an ILS approach at Lydd. Approximately 4 miles west of Tunbridge, altitude 1,400 feet, QNH 1032. Currently VFR, but would like a traffic service for an IFR climb, altitude 2,300 feet.
Golf India Victor, your transmission is very broken. 4575, basic service, QNH 1031.
Sport 4575, basic service, QNH 1031, Golf India Victor.
Golf India Victor, say again your requested routing.
Requested routing is to 5 miles east of Maidstone, then Lydd, and then to Shoreham, and looking for an IFR climb, altitude 2,300 feet.
Golf India Victor, sorry, I thought you said your VFR. Just remain below Class A controlled airspace, the base of which is 2,500 feet.
Roger, and if possible, could we get a traffic service for the climb to 2,300, Golf India Victor?
Golf India Victor, due to your level and distance from Southend, I can offer you only traffic service with reduced traffic information. So, Golf India Victor, you are identified. Traffic service, reduced traffic information. Due to your distance from Southend and your level, possible late warning of traffic, maintain your own terrain clearance.
Traffic service reduced, own terrain clearance, Golf India Victor, climbing altitude 2,300 feet.
So when you're on a restricted instrument rating, not flying on a full IFR flight plan, you can't take advantage of the higher Class A levels, the airways, the TMA, and then the resulting services from London Control. Every radio call with the next agency is a new negotiation, starting from scratch, trying to get the best service you can. It is far from ideal, and this is one of the main reasons why I'm going for the full IR via the competency-based route. We'll talk in detail about that plan later and what that IR involves. Also, because I have to remain below the TMA, which is just above me at 2,500 feet, I'm stuck down here in the clouds. My workload is high. I can't climb that extra 1,000 foot that will get me out of the soup to a easier ride. And I suppose I ought to mention at this point, I get asked about it an awful lot. You can see I'm hand flying. Why is that? Well, my autopilot's one of those 1970s models. It sort of works, but not very well. I don't trust it. It's probably beyond economic repair. I'm currently saving really hard for a panel upgrade. I'm talking to avionics companies right now. I really need to spend about £40,000 to get the aeroplane anywhere near what I need to do this all properly. So you're going to have to bear with me on that, because that's not the kind of money that I have lying around, of course.
Golf India Victor would like a climb, altitude 3,200 feet.
Golf India Victor, nothing known to affect your climb. Remain below 3,500 feet. That's the base of Class A controlled airspace.
Climbing altitude 3,200 feet, Golf India Victor.
The base of the Class A has now increased, as you've heard at this point, to 3,500 feet. So I can climb to 3,200 feet, which is the minimum altitude I need to commence the instrument procedure at Lydd. And at this point, we're pretty much at the top of the cloud.
Golf India Victor, request frequency change, Lydd approach 120.705.
Golf India Victor, squawk conspicuity. Frequency change approved. Radar service terminated. Bye-bye.
Squawk conspicuity, Golf India Victor, goodbye. Lydd approach, good morning, Golf Bravo Mike India Victor, 15 miles northwest with Lima QNH 1033, inbound for ILS 21.
Golf Bravo Mike India Victor, Lydd approach, good morning, information is Lima QNH correct 1033. Would you like to join the 14 DME arc for the ILS approach runway 21 or route via ROMTI?
Request to route via ROMTI, Golf India Victor.
Golf India Victor, procedural service, squawk 7067, clear to ROMTI, altitude 3,200 feet, report to ROMTI.
Procedural service, squawk 7067, proceed to ROMTI, altitude 3,200 feet, Golf India Victor.
Now, I'm not going to show the whole approach here because it really is a very long procedure.
Golf India Victor, ROMTI, outbound.
Golf India Victor, cleared ILS approach runway 21, report established on the 14 DME arc.
Cleared ILS approach runway 21 and report established on the 14 DME arc, Golf India Victor.
From the hold at ROMTI, I have to track out to the 14 DME arc and then fly that arc at 14 DME around before intercepting the localizer, then beginning my descent on the glide path at 8.5 miles, coming down to my decision altitude before going around.
Prop full forward now, almost half scale deflection, which would be a go around. It's an offset approach, which is why the runway is not correctly centered. Getting on track now, but we're slightly above the glide slope, so just back on the power. Golf India Victor, 4 DME.
Golf India Victor, runway 21, cleared missed approach, right turn, surface into 250 degrees, 12 knots, report going around.
Clears missed approach, runway 21 with a right turn, and we'll go, Golf India Victor. 500 to go. 200 to go. And here. Altitude.
So I reached the decision altitude and go around. I was moderately happy with the approach practice, except for at one point coming very close to half-scale deflection on the localizer. I could, but won't, make an excuse about the 20-knot crosswind. My upcoming training will no doubt hopefully hone my accuracy.
Golf India Victor going around.
Golf India Victor, roger.
I've shared the full unedited approach on my Supporters Club channel. You can access that for a small monthly or annual fee, and you'll get other bonus content pretty much weekly, plus the chance for a one-to-one Zoom call with me. So if you're training right now and have some questions that you're afraid to ask your instructor, maybe you're thinking about taking up your PPL and you just want to know what it all involves, feel free to sign up to the Supporters Club and book a session with me.
Good, that worked out okay. Not as flown accurately as I'd like. Golf India Victor, 1,900 feet, 3 to the north and turning direct Seaford.
Golf India Victor, roger.
As you can see, with a restricted instrument rating, you can fly an approach like that down to minimums. Now, what I should say about the restricted instrument rating is they do recommend, if you only have a restricted rating, that you add certain fudge factors on top. So for an ILS approach, 200 feet, for a non-precision approach...
Now basic service, change squawk to 7066.
Basic service, squawk 7066, Golf India Victor.
Golf India Victor, no reported traffic, report passing Rye.
Golf India Victor. Yeah, you're meant to add 200 feet for a precision approach, 300 feet for a non-precision approach, and an absolute floor of 500 feet for a precision and 600 for a non-precision. But there's nothing legally stopping you going down to minimums, which I quite regularly do when I'm practicing, so that I'm able to do it.
There's another reason that I'm doing the CBR that I haven't until now mentioned to anyone, I think, publicly. I have a dream, an ambition, to one day fly my own aeroplane, possibly India Victor here, over the Atlantic to the US. It may be a well-trodden path now, but still quite a challenge for private pilots in a single-engine aeroplane. I figured that if I'm to do it, I'll need the full IR. I've already been talking to my friends at Echelon Air about the plan. They've promised to support me and mentor me for that project because, as well as providing great training for Cirrus pilots based out of Biggin Hill, they ferry quite a lot of Cirrus aircraft over the Atlantic for clients. I think Robbie from Echelon ferried Sir Alan Sugar's Cirrus over from the States, so they know how to do it. They know all the rules, the tricks and the risks. Echelon sponsors the Flying Reporter, and that's what I like about my sponsors. They don't just help with the cost of running the channel, they offer real tangible support and advice as well. Visit Echelon's website if you're interested in bespoke Cirrus training near London.
So for the CBIR, it's a slightly slimmed down syllabus. You're going to have to do, I think, 7 exams, including, I'm going to have to remember these now, communications, air law, meteorology, human performance, radio navigation, flight planning and performance, and one other. Instrumentation is the other one. I started my study back in November and I managed to do about an hour a day. That's almost about as much as my brain can manage at my age. And I find that doing it in the morning, things work better for me. So I usually do it just after Bertie's gone to school and before I get cracking on work. I'm doing 3 subjects to begin with. That's instrumentation, human performance and radio navigation. Those are the first 3 subjects in the first module. I'm finding it quite interesting actually. The subject matter is quite interesting. I suppose of those 3 subjects, radio navigation's been the hardest. I mean, it goes quite deep actually, you know, into how radars work, you know, max theoretical range of VHF transmissions, how satellite RNAV systems work and augmentation systems and the errors, the tropospheric effect. So yeah, I'm finding it interesting. That subject I'm finding a little bit harder than the others. I've got my first exams booked actually, and when you're watching this is the week that I'm taking my first 3 exams. So if you want to find out how I'm doing, then I'll be putting updates on my Supporters Club channel, no doubt, and also perhaps follow me on Facebook and Instagram because I'll put updates on there for you as well. The way I find my study has worked best so far is to read through the course material. I'm doing it through Bristol Ground School. They're not sponsoring this. They are a well-renowned company. I read through the course material, then I start doing the questions on the example questions on the question bank. I'm finding I'm getting pretty good scores on those. They also run a revision week for each of the modules, which is a week long, and you join online courses or actually visit in person to sort of be given lectures on the various subjects to kind of brush you up ready for the exams.
I hope to have all the theoretical knowledge exams all finished by May, so that will have taken me 6 months. I've then got 3 weeks of flight training booked at Anglian flight centres. Now for a full IR you'd have to do 50 hours of flight training. For the competency based IR you have to do 40 hours flight training, but because I've already got the restricted instrument rating and I've flown almost 60 hours on instruments since then, I can actually credit up to 30 hours towards the training. So technically I've only got to do 10 more hours of training, so it really is worthwhile, the CBIR. To be honest though, I am expecting to have to do about 20 hours flight training before I'm ready for the test. Hopefully I'll have my new rating, which will be equivalent to a full IR by the summer.
And it certainly made more sense to me to do that from a cost perspective and time perspective actually than going across to the States and having to, you know, do loads of instrument time over there, do their slightly easier test, but then I've got to come back to the UK and convert it. The cost in the end, it works out better to do it here and just swallow the fact that I've got to do 6 months of theoretical knowledge study. The purpose of the flight actually is to meet up with some business associates of mine at Shoreham to talk about a project we're working on, which I will hopefully share with you at some point. Quite exciting proposition for the general aviation community. Shoreham approach, Golf Bravo Mike India Victor, is 2 miles east of Brighton Marina, altitude 2,200 feet, with the latest information, QNH 1033.
Golf Bravo Mike India Victor, Shoreham approach, good morning to you. Information, there is whiskey and the QNH correct is 1033.
QNH 1033, whiskey, Golf India Victor.
And Golf India Victor, are you inbound VFR or IFR?
VFR, Golf India Victor.
Golf India Victor, roger, squawk 3763 and report approaching the A27 tunnels if you're familiar, about 2.5 miles northeast of Shoreham.
Squawk 3763 and report at the tunnels, Golf India Victor.
Correct, India Victor, and traffic for you, believed to be about 2 or 3 miles ahead of you over Brighton, is a PA28, also inbound to join left base.
Golf India Victor. Fuel radios, engine temperatures and pressures. Direction indicator is aligned. Golf India Victor, final 20.
Golf India Victor, surface wind 25014 knots, runway 20, clear to land.
Clear to land, runway 20, Golf India Victor. Welcome to Shoreham. Bit breezy, bit of a crosswind there.
So I'm hoping to have the theoretical knowledge all completed by May. I've then got 3 weeks in the calendar booked to do the practical training, probably expecting, as I say, 10 to 20 hours of training, the test. So hopefully by late spring, early summer, I'll have the CBIR, all things being considered. I will update you here on the channel with details of how that's all going, with frequent updates. And of course it's going to open up my flying and it's going to help me with my ambition to do more touring, because the problem with VFR flying is it can be very weather dependent, can't it? And hoping that the full IR will allow me to travel Europe with ease, relative ease that is. I'll be blasting across Europe very soon. It's been a pleasure flying with you today. Thank you so much for watching. Fly safely, my friends.